Hey everyone, it's Tammy Morales, Seattle City Council member representing District 2. I just got home from the grocery store, so I'm gonna be making dinner for my family. But I do want to share with you a little bit about where we are in the budget process for City Council right now. So I've got too many things going on. So I'm gonna unload my groceries because I'm making kind of a standby dinner when it's a busy night, which is basically garbanzo beans with greens and tomatoes. And I might grill some sausage too. Okay. So that's what I'm gonna do while I'm talking to you so I can get dinner on the table. Okay, so I'm gonna get dinner going. You know, we spent all day in budget, and I'm sure most people don't have time for that. I know it's tricky even for me. You know, our kids are home from school, and so I'm also, in addition to being a council member, playing teaching assistant and lunch lady and IT support. And if you know me, you know that what you really don't want is for me to be your IT support. So my kids are managing as best they can. But anyway, so yeah, we had a very long budget meeting today, and we're in the process of reviewing the mayor's proposed budget, which is what we spent a few hours doing today. And I will say that it was a little bit frustrating. You know, we are hearing about $100 million investment in Black communities, which would be great. We're hearing about a new task force about focused on equitable communities. And as somebody who has fought really hard for the Equitable Development Initiative, for Green New Deal, for real serious investment and commitment to invest in Black and Brown communities, you know, I was definitely eager to hear what the mayor had to say about it and take a look at her budget proposal. These are very strong onions. So that's what we did today. And you know, what I realized is that it feels a little bit, honestly, like a shell game. I mean, I hate to say that, but what we realized is that this $100 million commitment that the mayor has made, she made with the assumption and with the plan to draw down all of our emergency reserves and to use the Jumpstart money that we just passed. So I'm sure folks remember that we just passed progressive revenue. And we did that because we know that we need a more progressive way to pay for things in the city. And the funds that we were anticipating for next year are going to go to COVID relief. We did a lot this year. We were able to pay for grocery vouchers, for rental assistance for folks who are struggling, for utility discounts. And COVID's not going anywhere, unfortunately. So we know that we're going to have to anticipate some additional needs next year. But the mayor just sort of took that plan and wiped the slate clean and is planning to use that, or is proposing to use that to fund this $100 million commitment that she made. And we're going to have a conversation about that. I need to get some garlic. Okay, so we're going to have to really think about whether that is an appropriate way to fund the commitment that the mayor is making. What our office is really looking at as we look through, as we plan for the 2021 budget, is how we're going to make decisions that really are following the principles that our office follows. And so last week we did a video talking about the ways that we make decisions in our office. You know, we really do follow the principle of first making decisions that can help to repair the harm that's been done to our Black and brown neighborhoods. The other thing is that we want to make sure that we're democratizing access to resources and power, because that's how we will actually see the kind of change that the kind of transformational change that we want to see. And then the last is a real commitment to planning for the 7th generation so that our kids and our kids' kids have healthy air and water and have, you know, have a world that they have inherited that is strong and green and clean, and that we're making policy and investment decisions that move us toward a clean and a just transition away from fossil fuel. So those are the kinds of values and principles that we use in making these decisions. What that means for the budget is that we're really focused on a few things, making sure that we're investing in District 2 as the part of town that has a really high risk of displacement and a low access to economic opportunity. It's important that the decisions that we make will serve to improve opportunity for folks in this district. So that means investing in things like the Equitable Development Initiative, permanently affordable housing, increasing access to land acquisition. We have a lot of great community organizations that are trying to build projects to serve our neighbors, but they need access to land, and land is expensive. So we have some programs in place that can help community organizations get access so that we can increase community ownership of land, and so that we can really start to build community wealth, especially in our Black neighborhoods, especially for our communities of color. So those are the things that we've been really prioritizing in terms of the investments that we want to see. And then the last thing is really investing in affordable housing and in programs and services that can serve our homeless neighbors. We are 5 years into a homeless crisis, and we know that we need to make the kind of investments in shelters, in permanent supportive housing, and in the kind of services like trash pickup and hygiene stations and hand washing stations that can really help people who are living until we have housing for them, shelter for them. We need to be able to make sure that those our unhoused neighbors are safe. Stand by. Okay. So now I'm chopping kale. I have to say, I am new to kale. When I grew up, kale was something you decorated the turkey platter with at Thanksgiving. It was not something you actually ate. But I've grown accustomed to it, and now I like it. So anyway, so now I want to talk a little bit about participatory budgeting, because that is going to be a key piece of how we start to make investments in community, particularly when we're talking about community safety. So, you know, we've had, especially over the summer, had a lot of conversations about public safety, about how we need to reallocate resources away from the police department and toward community-based safety measures and programs that support our neighbors. So we spend $400 million a year on the police department. And then we spend less than half, $185 million on the Office of Economic Development, the Office of Housing, the Department of Neighborhoods, and the Planning and Community Development departments. So 4 departments, we spend less than half of what we spend actually investing in community compared to what we spend on the police department. This is why it's so important for us to have a serious conversation about how we're going to transition and shift those resources. So participatory budgeting is one way that we can start democratizing access to power and resources by giving our neighbors an opportunity to vote on the kinds of things that they want to see instead. And it is a process that we're already doing. We have a small program called Your Voice, Your Choice, where neighbors make proposals for some transportation projects, sidewalk improvements and things like that. And that's a similar idea of what we want to do with participatory budgeting, which is to give our neighbors a chance to have a say in how some of those dollars are spent. It's not the entire budget, but it is going to help us understand the kinds of programming that our neighbors want to see. Whether that's restorative justice programs or youth mentoring, there are an array of things that we could be doing instead that would have an acute impact on our community and on our neighbors and actually help them in a much more significant way than just adding more police to patrol. So that's why we're doing participatory budgeting. And that's why I'm committed to making sure that we have the resources to be able to do a process like that. It is a process. It takes several months because it means that we're doing surveys. We will be working with community organizations to do the work, but city staff will help with crafting budgets and helping identify how to put a proposal together. And then once we have proposals, that goes up to a vote and everybody in the city gets to vote on it. So I think it's going to be a really important way to give you, our neighbors, some decision-making power in what we fund in the city and what we prioritize as important to our neighbors. That's why I'm committed to it, and that's why I'm excited that we have begun this process as it relates to community safety in particular. And now I need to add kale to my onions. Okay. So this is all I'm doing. I'm sauteing some onions. I'm adding some kale, little salt and pepper. So I'm sauteing my kale with onions and garlic, little salt and pepper. And now comes the really lazy part, or the really easy part, which is that once the kale's cooked down, I'm just gonna put a couple cans of diced tomatoes and a couple cans of garbanzo beans in there. And that's kind of it. So the other thing to know is that we are in the middle of issue ID for council, which means that we will be hearing from our central staff about their analysis of the budget for homelessness, for community safety, and those are the conversations that we'll be having over the next several weeks. So it's a great opportunity to hear from our staff about the issues that they've identified and to really hear from other council members, the kinds of questions they have, and the kinds of priorities that they think they will be bringing. So all of us have created a list of priorities that we have. And over the next couple of weeks, we will be slowly identifying which ones we think we might really be able to do, how much it's going to cost. And if we want to propose new spending, we'll also have to propose a reduction somewhere else. So this is why it's going to be a really hard conversation to have, because there are many things we would like to do. And the reality is that we are in a crisis, an economic crisis because of COVID, and we're going to have to make some hard decisions. So we will be having a lot of conversation, and council really needs to hear from you about what your priorities are. So please continue to call and email and let us know. We will be having another public hearing on October 27th in the evening. So that's your opportunity to call in and make your public comment. We did this last week and we heard from about 150 people. So we were listening for about 4 hours. So please make a plan to do that. And if you can't make it, then we are always taking emails and phone calls to hear from you. So here we are. This is kind of the final product. I like to put extra olive oil in. Whoops. So it's just basically kind of a stew of beans and greens, and yeah, I might warm up a little bit of sausage to have with it and maybe some rice, and that's what we do. Next week, council will be doing issue ID around homelessness. So we have several proposals in. So we will be doing another video and talking with you then about what our priorities are and what we hope to see out of the next budget. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you soon.